The doctor is in. The doctor isn't in, but hopefully she's coming any minute now. Dr. Mo will be here, but I am so excited about this show. I'm excited about every show, but this one is like so special. And I've been listening to their podcast for the last few hours. So I have this whole vision in my head about this conversation, what's going to unfold about sex. Today we're going to talk about sex and breast cancer. Oh my God. I love this. but I have two of my like bestest blesties in my life, and I love them so much. And they did this incredible thing together, and I'm taking credit for it.
You can.
Job,
yes, you're right? Like the matchmaker that brought.
Yeah, I'm taking credit for this. So I love this match made in heaven. So we got, my cancer fashionista, Melissa Berry, who is, the bomb, and my Deltra, who I love my Deltra so much. And so this is going to be like so awesome, you guys. And I'm not even.
We love you, Ricky.
I love you. But this is like the coolest thing. Like, all right, so you guys tell the story. Let's talk. You guys talk. Mo will be here soon, but let's talk about sex and all the things. And you have 3 episodes of a podcast. I'm going to put that in the comment section so everybody can refer to them later. But go. What you got for me?
Awesome. So Deltra, 1 minute, I'll share our love story.
Your love story. Your love story. Go for it.
I have a podcast called Dear Cancer and Beautiful, which is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and now YouTube. And I talk about all things related to breast cancer, from growing your hair back to losing your lashes to bone health, how to find a post-mastectomy bra and everything in between. And then I started to scratch the surface on the topic of breast cancer and sex. And I reached out to our dear friend Ricky, because I'm like, who can I talk to about dating, sex, intimacy, and metastatic breast cancer? And Ricky was like, Deltra. I'm like, why don't I know Deltra? She's like, I don't know. Why don't you know Deltra? So Ricky introduced us, and we had a regular Dear Cancer and Beautiful that was amazing. And you shared so much, Deltra, and so much courage and so much, like, you're just awesome. Like, as far as, getting yourself out there, regardless of what's going on. But in those 40 some odd minutes, as soon as I was done, I'm like, wait, there is way more to unpack here. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So in my mind, I was thinking, ooh, if I could do anything, what would it be? What would I want to share with the community that's not been really done before? And it's all these conversations about dating and sex and intimacy and breast cancer that we have among ourselves, that Deltra and I had on the podcast. But we also, like, it's what you want to hear when we shut that microphone off. Like, what else are we talking about? And that's what we wanted to bring to the table. And so basically we launched a really amazing series called Empowered Intimacy, Getting Your Sexy Back After Breast Cancer. Deltra is my amazing co-host. The first episode was all about loving yourself, because that's where it all begins. The second episode was about how to navigate like dating and divorce and breast cancer. And the third episode, it just so happened to have dropped this morning, all about dating and breast cancer. And I think it's funny. Deltra and I think it's our favorite episode so far.
Yeah.
I don't know. I watched them all today. I started this morning, and then I watched the last 2 like since 4 o'clock, and I was like blown away. I couldn't turn, and my phone kept ringing and stuff happened. I'm like, I can't stop. I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't stop for a minute, because it was just so good, because you hit on all the things, and I just remember all the feelings you brought up. I remember I can so relate to everything you talked about. And even when you cried, Melissa, you made me cry.
No. Well, Ricky, and you're going to make me cry, because really, and for everyone that's tuning in, how many times have I called you, Ricky, about dating or this one, that one? You're like, and life is hard without breast cancer, but then, breast cancer into the mix, and it's really tough stuff.
It's really tough stuff. And it's so, and we've heard so many women talk about it, and it's interesting, and we'll get into some of the stuff, but the conversation about sex usually starts with vaginal dryness.
Yeah.
And like lack of interest because of that, or pain or whatever. But what you guys brought, like, you didn't even really touch that. It was more about the emotional impact on us and how we felt inside, and all the feelings that came along with this thing that we all had. You know what I mean? So that's what hit home to me so much. And that But vaginal dryness, you can get some stuff to work with that most of the time. You know, I mean, at least you can try to fix it a little bit.
Mhm.
The emotional wear and tear on our hearts is what you guys really touched on. And that's where it does a lot of damage. And it takes a lot to like undo that crap, right? I mean,
Definitely. And I'm sure Deltra, you could weigh in here too, especially when it comes to divorce. And that's what
Yeah.
really, I felt like where Deltra and I really bonded, because having gone through divorce and breast cancer, it does a number on your ego. It does a number on your self-esteem, like everything. Don't you agree, Deltra?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was about to say and was thinking the same. That, yeah, it's just, I mean, very similar experience, of course, when you go through like all of this change that happens to your body and affects you mentally and emotionally. But then to have to start all over without, someone you already felt safe and comfortable with. I mean, it's hard enough when people remain married or they have a really great supportive partner. It can still be difficult because, like Ricky said, it just can really wreak havoc on your self-esteem. And you have
Yeah.
a new body, and if you have a new body that you are trying to accept, it can be really difficult to believe that anyone else could accept it. And yeah, it's a lot to navigate dating after dealing with cancer, or in my case, living with cancer.
Exactly. And I think also I'm so passionate about this because I've sat across the dinner table from way too many of my friends that say, I don't think I'm dateable. And it shreds my heart, because there's
Yeah.
no reason for any of us walking this earth to feel that we're not worthy of the joy of falling in love, of, dating, going out there. And I wanted to break down that wall.
Well, it's really hard though, because I meet so many women who divorce. Is it because of cancer? Is it after cancer? Was it going to happen anyway? You know what I mean? Like for me, cancer freed me from my bad marriage.
Mhm.
So it actually was very hurtful as it was happening, but it was getting a cancer out of my life. And it was in the long run, it was a good thing to happen. You know what I mean? Was that the right time? Would it have happened anyway if I didn't get sick? You have all those, that didn't happen, have all these what ifs. But just the concept, look at how many women are traumatized by divorce. And frankly, we didn't have time to get traumatized by divorce because we were traumatized by cancer.
Yeah, it's a really tough mix. And
Right.
I think that's why I wanted to have Deltra on as my co-host, because like we all have different iterations and different stories. Some of us were divorced because of breast cancer. Some of us were divorced right when we were diagnosed or right after. And in my case, unfortunately, I think my marriage we were struggling anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that something traumatic like a breast cancer diagnosis can either really bring you really close and like reconnect you in a way, or it could weaken an already weakened foundation. And in our
Right.
case, I think it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt really strongly, like Ricky was saying, with the what ifs and such. And I feel like for so many people, whether they recognize it or not, yes, maybe it would have happened, or maybe it wouldn't have happened, but it should have
Right.
happened.
It should have happened. Right.
Yeah, but cancer just gave that nudge. When you get hit with cancer, especially like me, where I was 33 years old and I'm just raising these kids, and I'm just telling myself as a stay-at-home mom, like, you can't leave. You got to stay. You got to stay at least until the kids are like grown, which lots of women can relate to. But then to be told like, oh, there's likely not going to be like a second chapter of your life, as a lot of women call it when they get older, really just gave me the nudge that I needed to really, think, like you always say, Ricky, like about the other cancers in your life that only you can remove. Like
Right.
no
Right.
one
Right.
else can remove them for you. So
The ones that you have control over. Hello. Right.
yeah.
But
Like Deltra and I always joke, because you coined the phrase, I think, was been Ricky. You should
Yeah.
share
I don't know if
that.
I listened, I don't know where it came from, but that's what I found. Yeah. I know. It's a husband, but
Yep.
but also, I think I felt like my body failed me. Like, how did I get cancer? And a lot of people say, why did God do this? I never said, why did God do this? I felt like I did it to myself, or was there something I did that caused this? Could I have done something different to not get it? And I was in the best shape of my life. I was riding my bike 20 miles a day. I was like, I still ate ice cream every day. We know that, but I was doing pretty good. You know what I mean? For being a healthy person.
Mhm.
And I was working and doing all the things a mother does. So, but I felt like my body failed me. And so to try to explain that to somebody, including my husband, I couldn't explain it because I was mourning it.
Exactly. And that's another reason why I wanted to put these conversations on the air, because so many of us are struggling in isolation, thinking there's something wrong with us, that we're damaged goods, that no one else is going to understand. And the truth is, it's really hard for our friends and family, as much as we love them, to really understand unless you've had breast cancer. I have amazing friends that have gone through divorce and all the things, and it's just different. It's definitely more complicated, especially when there are physical changes. And then,
Yeah.
a really hot topic is, okay, now I'm on the apps. When do I tell the date that I have reconstructed breasts, that I don't have breasts, that I don't have nipples, that I don't have ovaries, all of those things that are racing through our heads when dating is complicated and scary enough.
It is. Because I remember my husband, because I was like, a member of the itty bitty titty committee. So my little fake boobs here, and you see them, are bigger than the ones that tried to kill me. but so when I finally got my implants in, my husband said to me, "Oh, well, Ricky, how's it feel like to have boobs?" I'm like, well, you know what? It feels really good not to have cancer.
Yes.
But I mean, really?
Yeah.
Wow. We've talked a lot. This is the first time I've heard that. I mean,
Yeah. So I don't know. So I mean, also we have so many influences around us. But Latoya told me a story once, and she's still kind of dealing with this. Her babies were 2, 4, and 6 when she got when she got breast cancer at 36. And she talked about how her babies didn't want to hug her because she didn't have boobs to hug them with. And it just made her feel so bad about being a mother and not being able to comfort her babies and put them to sleep on
wow.
her chest. But I mean, that's the kind
really
of stuff
tough.
we're going through, right? When you lose your breasts.
Absolutely. Like I remember, I think even mentioned on the podcast, like when I first had my mastectomy and I had the expanders in, I remember not even wanting to be too close to someone in an elevator, much less
Right.
be intimate with someone. So there's such a huge,
Right. So many issues.
evolution that needs to happen from the time
Right.
that you're diagnosed to the time that you can feel like you can be intimate. It's a lot. And that's again why we wanted to have these conversations, because look, we love our doctors, right? They are there to save our lives, but how do we get through it? How do we live
This is
through
not a
it?
topic for them.
How
This
do we
is
love through it,
Yeah. Yeah. This is not a topic for our doctors. They just couldn't even talk about this stuff. But
Yeah.
so what do you think you guys learned through this process? Like, do you have any like aha moments or stuff that you took away from making this podcast? Because I mean, you guys have to listen to this, watch this. It is pretty raw, pretty real. It's really real and pretty raw. And you guys, are talking about all the things, all the things. So what did you take away? What did you learn?
Delta, you want to go first? Or want me to go?
Yeah.
You can go.
I know that I'm a very open book kind of person.
Yeah.
And this just
Yeah, you
challenged
are.
me to be even more. I think that what I learned was just in a way like how far I've come and how comfortable I can be in my own skin. And I think I mentioned this in the podcast. Like it was important for me to come to a place of like accepting myself, to be able to be comfortable sharing myself with other people as I was dating. And, that saying, and it's cliche, the whole, you can't love anyone else until you love yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I like 100% agree with that, but I did feel in the situation with dealing with diagnosis, it was important for me to just stand firm in knowing who I am and what I have to offer. And sharing, when you speak things out loud and share your story, it kind of sometimes hits you harder, like you may know something in your head, but saying it aloud to someone else is really different. And so I think, like, when today's podcast host Melissa mentioned the word, dateability and people questioning that. And I realized I'm still me and have a lot more to offer outside of just my physical appearance. And I'm still someone worth getting to know, and that someone would be lucky to know, whether or not they get to know me for a long time or a short period of time. So that was
Yeah.
something that really hit me with doing this podcast with Melissa.
How about you, Melissa?
I would say for me, I was reminded of a lesson, and I try and amplify it as much as I can, because I think it's so important, especially jumping off of today's episode, which is about dating, is that I think we all make assumptions. Well, if I tell this person that I had cancer, I have metastatic cancer, breast cancer, or I don't have breasts, I have one breast, we assume they are going to run, or they're going to say, check, please. And
Yeah.
guess what? In my experience, I've been very lucky. That has not happened once. In fact, it's the complete opposite. Why? Because 1 out of every 8 of us are diagnosed with breast
Right,
cancer.
breast
So
cancer, right.
a lot of the people that we are dating are also dating those who have been touched by this. And if they're, and chances are that they have someone in their life that was touched by this. So the reaction that I was reminded that and I wish I could tell my younger self this when I was first diagnosed, or actually I should say when I was first starting to date again, is that you need to give people the benefit of the doubt. And most of the time the reaction is, oh my gosh, a friend of mine was just diagnosed, like, you're amazing, I think it's so great that you're advocating, like, and I'm so proud of you for getting through this. And it's usually a lot of praise. And listen, I have friends like, and Daltra, where the stories are not as positive. But for anyone listening, I just don't want you to make any assumptions or preconceived notions that you're not worthy, that you're not
You're not
dateable.
worthy. Yeah, you're not worthy. And I think I have the same experiences with that men that I dated were enamored by the fact that I could even talk about it, and I was very forthright about it. Like, it's like, okay, I remember, like, do you say this on the first date, or do you wait till the second date, or do you wait till you're sex and bring it up? Like, but this is my story. And I actually dated a guy who was really, really nice. And he had just completed his treatment of cancer, lymphoma. And he had just finished treatment. I was probably 5 years out of treatment. And my life is breast cancer. I've been talking about it since I was sick. That's all I talk about, and so we had, a couple of days. He was really lots of fun. And after a while I said, you know what, Ricky, I don't really want to talk about cancer anymore. I don't want to talk about it. And I said, I hear you. I hear you. I said, well, it was great being friends. Let's be friends, but this is my life, because I know this is why I'm here. God left me here to talk about cancer and help women. And I can see how you don't want to, but I think he was at that point where he had just finished chemo and treatment and everything, and he wanted to be done with it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I was ever done with it that way, but you know what? I respected that. But I think that as advocates, this is part of our being, right?
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
can't like separate my psyche or my body or anything from this thing called breast cancer. Because it's a God job, right? It's part of who I am, right? So you either have to accept it or not. And I think the ones that could understand that became friends, but the ones who couldn't, we can't.
It's so
Make it
true. And
go.
look, the bottom line is too that a lot of people are walking around with all kinds of
Right.
illnesses and issues, and nobody is perfect, especially as we get older. and we all have our stuff. And it's part of being in a relationship, a partnership, is to support one another and adore each other no matter what. And you know what? It's also a great filter. If that person across the
It
table says,
is. Yep.
I don't think this is for me, okay, next.
Mhm.
Great. Great.
Yeah,
This isn't for me. Great.
absolutely.
See you, bye. We can be friends, but we're done. I mean, yeah, I also think, don't you think it gave you different boundaries even for who you want to be around?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that humans in general, we have to get good at being comfortable being uncomfortable, because there will be a time where each of us will experience something difficult or traumatizing, or, people forget that they can become disabled, they can become sick, and so it's better to already know how to interact with and be there for people, support people who are in those positions. And I realized, when I started dating, I did want it to be a distraction, but when things, would get more, there's only so many times you can hang out with a person with things staying surface level as far as conversations and such.
Right,
And
right, right. Well,
just
at least
came
with
to a
us,
point where I
because we're gonna
realized,
bring it.
yes, yes, that's true too. But I realized, I do want to talk about cancer, and I always say my diagnosis doesn't define me, and that is true, but it is a big part of me, and it's an even bigger part of my life because I've allowed it to be in positive ways. And so there's no way I could, be dating someone and not talk about my advocacy work. Like, I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of what how I've turned around my diagnosis, how I've walked this path of living with this disease. And so I'd hate to not be able to share with someone. I think
Right.
on today's podcast, the one that dropped today, I actually talked about when I told my current partner and sort of why and how it ended up being a relief for him. It helped him to understand me better. And for
Yeah,
me, it
talk about
allowed me
that.
to
Talk about
have
that,
that
what you talked about. Yeah, talk
conversation.
about that. Talk about that a
Yeah.
little more.
So he had been on my roster. We'll say he was one of the people I was dating, and I was taking things very slow and just hanging out with people and having a blast. And we knew that we enjoyed each other's company, but it was still casual. We'd maybe sometimes only see each other once a month, but I was always going off somewhere or working on something. And at that point, we had known each other 7 months, and I was letting him know I was about to fly to Tennessee. So he was, of course, like, "Oh, what are you going out there for?" And I'm not gonna lie,
Right.
but I was like, "Whoa, all right, this is the moment. I'm gonna share. I'm just gonna drop it on him." And there's that whole confidence and comfortable with yourself thing, because I knew I'm comfortable with whatever another person chooses to do. If they need to walk, I'll be all right, because I know what they're walking away from. So it's not
Right.
giving me feel,
Right.
bad about
Right. It has
me.
nothing to do with you.
But
Yeah, it has nothing to do with you.
yeah. So I wrote him a whole long paragraph letting him know, well, here's why I'm going. It's actually something I've been wanting to talk to you about. And I let him know, I live with cancer. I always say I live with, because I want to be very clear. Like, this is something I am going through, not something I went through. And then I was like, I hope that, you can deal with that and would still like to be a part of my life, because I really enjoy, your company. And he wrote me back, and he was just like, of course, like, that your diagnosis doesn't define you, and I don't feel offended that you didn't tell me. I feel like it's your, business to do with it what you'd like, and to only share with who you want and when you're comfortable. And I appreciated that. And he also let me know that it was a relief to him to hear that, because there have been so many times where I canceled on him. And so he started to think that I just didn't like him. But in
You're
reality,
playing hard
there's
to
more
get.
to, yeah,
Right.
right.
You're trying hard to
Something
get.
else. Like, why is this grown woman playing hard to get?
Right. Right.
No, I have to wash my hair
Um,
tonight.
Yeah. But
Right.
actually, those were my toughest days. And it's hard, a partnership or just even friendship. You should be able to let someone in even on your difficult days. It
On your
shouldn't be
bad days. Yeah.
only around on your best days. But I was hiding that part of
Right.
myself, and it was such a relief. And then I
Yeah.
got to think about this is the project I'm working on, or this is what I'm doing in Tennessee, because again, I'm so proud of those things, and it's a part of me, and anyone worth anything, worth having in your life romantically or, as a friend, is going to care about those things and also see you in a different light. Like Ricky mentioned earlier, someone seeing you was like, wow, like you're super admirable. Like it's amazing the things that you do and, living through a diagnosis. So it was difficult, but definitely a very worth it moment to show up for myself and have some courage and keep it real.
Yeah.
It's such
Yeah.
a good story. It's such a good example. And like, we would love for everyone to tune into the podcast. So we don't want to give the whole thing away, but another little tale from the crypt here is I am dating someone, and look, if you Google my first and last name, it's going to be a lot of breast cancer stuff, right? Which I'm super proud of. But
Yeah.
when you first start dating someone and they're like, okay, what's your last name? And I remember thinking, here we go.
There we
And
go.
I actually
That
had the
happened to me so
dialogue in
many
my
times.
head. I actually had the soundtrack of he's gonna see I had breast cancer and he may not be interested anymore. That was my story. And
Did
boy,
you
was
tell
I
him?
wrong.
Did you tell him? Did you tell him before you hit Google?
I gave him my last name and then I told him in the same breath. And then I held my breath because I really liked him. And I was like, and then later on, I had said to him, I was kind of nervous about sharing that with you. And because I wasn't sure if you'd still be interested in me. And he was like, what? So
Yeah.
I say to everyone, don't write the script, don't write the story, because you need to give the other person a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
can't remember when I told Nate I had breast cancer, but it was pretty early on because
Oh yeah.
our third date, I invited him to a breast cancer gala.
whoa, that was
And,
bold.
and I was the speaker. I was the keynote, of
Oh,
course.
cool.
And so he said, I'll meet you there. Like he didn't pick me up or anything. I guess it's I'll meet you there because I was like, I don't know, because I didn't really tell him what it was. I'm like, what is this gala? Whatever, it's a breast cancer thing. And I told him, so I must have told him before that I had breast cancer. Anyway, so he shows up at this gala in a pink jacket.
Oh.
You know those pictures, Melissa, you've seen them.
Oh my
Like, pink
gosh.
jacket, like the pink bow tie and everything. And
So he was all in from the beginning.
yeah, like from the beginning. So I had on my little pink tutu skirt, the whole deal. And so figures, but like he got it, like, and he wore a pink jacket. Like what man does that, right? But then I took him to the head table. He's like, well, why are we sitting at this table? I said, don't worry, it's not a big deal, whatever. And then they called me up to speak. He's like, you're talking here? I'm like, yeah, no idea what I do.
Oh,
Wow.
But he had a pink jacket, and so it was really, that was like our beginning. But then when we were about to get married, a few months ago, I said, there's this thing called in sickness and in health, and this stuff could come back. I don't know. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. And I live this every day. I said, are you hearing those words? Because that's real. Like, can you accept that? I said, even though I think you're probably gonna get something before I do, but whatever. But I mean, like, you have to really think through what that means. What does that mean? Can you live with that, whatever it is? And there are dark days, but there are also a lot of joys, and there are a lot of learnings and just a lot of teaching moments that we've all gone through, and a lot of introspection about who we are. Right?
Yeah, it's a lot, so many lessons, right? And that's why, Deltra and I wanted to share all of our stories and all of the things we learned, because we're like, everyone doesn't have to keep learning the same lessons that we already learned. If we can help other, for me, that's always been so healing too, to know that there's, people out there just like me that are suffering in silence, that are, going through tough breakups or divorce in the midst of cancer treatment, or just right upon diagnosis, like when, and it really could send you into a tailspin. You feel like, where do I go? Where do I turn? And there's nothing better than having a sisterhood of women
Yeah.
like us that have already gone through it. Like I always say, I like to think like in the community, I like to think of myself as a big sister. I never had a big sister. I always wanted one. I love my brother, but I always wanted to have a big sister because a big sister would tell you, oh my God,
Yeah.
like this is what you need to wear. This is how you should do your
Mhm.
hair. Don't do this on a first date. So like we're kind of big sisters because we've already walked the walk, and you know, we're just trying to share as much as we can with everyone.
I thought I was your big sister.
You are. I stand corrected. Without a doubt. My parents would attack, they love you. They would
I'm
definitely
Deltra's
adopt you.
auntie. I'm Deltra's auntie, not her. But no, I think, you know, that's what, you know, there's nothing like bestie love. There's nothing
Yeah.
like, you can't even describe it, right? It's the best. It's the best. But we have so many young women getting diagnosed. I talked to a 31-year-old last night. And she's a 1-year-old, just got diagnosed with triple negative. And she's had, you know, the sonogram, the MRI, the biopsy, all the things. And after the MRI, the doctor says, well, here's a number, go call this person, maybe you can get an appointment. Like, what?
Oh my
So she
God.
called me crying, like in tears. Like, what do? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I know, really bad care in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Well,
Hello.
she's so lucky to have a friend like you that
But
can.
I mean, and I said, well, how'd you find my number? Because she called my cell phone, and she's like, I looked up, found it on Instagram. I'm like, okay, I guess.
Oh, well, now everyone's gonna know how to get your number.
I know, whatever. I know. Give him a touch number, but whatever. You know what? I answer the phone. I don't care. I talk
You're
to them.
amazing.
You guys do
You're
too. What are you gonna
amazing.
do? And so I, you know, got her to Val, and Val's talking her off the ledge, but that's where she is in her life right now. She's got a 1-year-old baby. She's 31. You think she doesn't want to have a love life in the future? Like, she doesn't even know what her future is going to look like. She's stage 2. I'm like, you're going to be fine, sweetie. You're going to be fine. We're going to get you the right stuff. You're going to have to do the work. But I mean, then you add dating on top of that, sex on top of that, have a relationship on top of that. Really? What does that
Yeah,
look
there are so many layers to it, and
so many years?
and that's why even in putting the series together, it's like, what are the buttons, right? What are the hot topics
Yeah.
that we wanted to talk about? And like I always wind back to like that, like anyone that's tuning in, like I would say start with episode 1 and like go, because it is like there's like a layering effect.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's cumulative. And I think if you don't listen to any episode but the first one, which is on loving yourself, and you know, it has to start there, whether you're single or married or not or whatever. It's really hard, especially after having physical changes, to get to know yourself again on all these different levels. It's very difficult. And you know, that's why we wanted to create this resource also, because like we said earlier, your doctor is there to save your life. But what about, you know, the rest of it? What about when you
Your
go
life,
home?
your life. He's saving he's working on your cancer. That's not,
Yeah.
you know, that's like
Yeah.
a piece of your life. And so who's working on your life? You know, I met this other couple, this young woman, she was 42 again, triple negative, got at 38, became metastatic after 2 years during COVID. She was one of my mom's teachers in her school. She was this precious, precious woman. She taught until 3 weeks before she died. But
Wow.
over this 2-year period of during COVID, she met this man, they fell in love, and they had the most beautiful love story. And she kept trying to end it, knowing that when she became metastatic, she's like, you know, we have to stop because I don't know what's going to happen to me. And she kept trying to push him away and push him away, and he refused. But they had like this incredible love story till the bitter end. I was there with them, you know, almost when she died. And but they had this 2 years of like precious love that he may never have again. She won't.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
like that, and he was willing to be that, to do that, to have her, to experience that because of how precious it was to him, right?
Yeah.
So having a 50-year-old marriage when you're grumpy at the end, I mean, I had a 30-year-old marriage, it sucked, right? Like,
Yeah.
Time every day counts, every minute of however you feel. And if it's gonna, if it's something that you feel, you have to live it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You have to
I'm
live
sure
it.
he has no regrets
No, he
that he
doesn't. And
shared that
he's
love
like,
with her, you know?
he has no regrets. He has no regrets. He's close to her mom and her family and her cousins, and like, oh, he's part of the family now. But he chose that.
Yeah.
That's
And
beautiful, Ricky. Thank you for sharing that story.
Ada,
Yes.
her name is Ada,
That
and
to remind everyone that you are dateable.
Everyone's dateable.
everyone's
You are worth
dateable.
it.
You hear
Everyone's
me?
dateable. And love is love is love. Love is love
Mhm.
is love. Doja, you taught me that. Love is love is love. You and Haley.
The truth. That's the truth.
And,
Yeah.
but you guys, this is such a blessing. It's going to be such a blessing to so many women to hear
We
it.
hope so. And like you said, there are more and more of us who are younger being diagnosed.
Yes,
And
I
so there
know.
needs to be these resources because
Yeah,
we are at way different points in life than, like I'm at a very different point in my life when I was diagnosed than my doctor's other patients. And my doctor is very focused on my, physical and just keeping me here. And then it's kind of on me and my helpful cancer community to, make the most of the time that I'm here.
for sure. Well, one time Ari, Ari, my little crazy
Love Ari.
gal, Ari.
Me too.
She got triple negative at 19 and 21,
Yeah.
right? And I remember when I first started dating them, I remember she kept like, "Do you all have sex because you're really old?" And she's like,
Yes,
like,
post breast cancer, post menopausal sex, nothing like it, right? Like,
know, I'm
here
like,
we
oh my
are.
God, it's like, I have the best sex ever, whatever, how old ever I am.
Right.
But it's still in her mind, still, like you had cancer, you lost your boobs, like you probably don't have sex because you're really old. But,
And we're here to say, no, that's not true. All of us.
that's not true. That's not true. Here comes Mo. Thank God she's going to save this conversation.
Oh, no.
I can't wait to see Mo.
You
Mo's
came just in
Oh,
time.
wait. Mo is in, are you just coming out of surgery?
Were you in surgery?
Oh, my gosh.
God bless you.
Ugh.
Did you save somebody? I hope so. You did.
Bless her.
Bless you. Bless you. Sometimes our service is a little spotty. Did you save some people's?
She's incredible for tuning in, right? Like literally right out of surgery.
Oh gosh, hey, I said I'm sorry for crashing the party, but I just wanted to stop in and say how wonderful this is. This is awesome.
Thanks,
I know
Dr.
this is your
Mo.
topic, Mo. This is how I met Mo. You
Yeah.
know what? I met Mo giving a talk about sex at
It's
an
true.
LGBT conference.
Wow.
Oh, look
Right?
at that.
Pretty
That's how
wild,
we met.
yeah. And back then, everybody looked at me like I had 3 heads. Like it was a really, people were very uncomfortable. And I brought a lot of props and a lot of things, for people to really get to understand and get comfortable, like having this conversation. And I wish there were more doctors in the room because clinicians are still not comfortable talking about this. You know how we say the number one reason people don't participate or Black women don't participate in clinical trials is because they're not asked, right?
Right.
The number one reason we don't address sex and intimacy is because nobody's asking about it.
Right.
Everyone's ashamed. Like,
Yeah.
I think as the patient, we're ashamed because we know that you're here to save our life. So then
Yeah.
for us to be like, it hurts when I have sex with my husband, like, but it really should be part of the whole
Yes.
care
Yeah.
package, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah, we have like an assessment that we do now, and it took us a few years to get it through all the different layers, administration and others. But we ask the question, and we ask about, what topics do you want to bring up with your doctor, right? Do you want to talk about your sex and intimacy? How comfortable are you with things? Are you having problems with pain, with dryness, with et cetera? So we go through like the whole gamut of different issues that a person could have. So it makes it a little easier, right? All you do is check the box, and then we look at it and say, okay, well, let's chat about this. How's it going, and what do we need to do, and what are your concerns? And we kind of at least give a little bit of space for it now, at least in my hospital. But we made it a priority because so many people were just suffering in silence and thinking, well, I guess I should just be glad to be alive, and that's not living.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Wow,
Wow,
thank you
that's
for sharing that. I
beautiful.
didn't know that they are doing
Yeah.
those kind of assessments now. That's really, I'm so happy to hear that, that's part of the intake of the patient.
I love to
That's
come on your
beautiful.
podcast. We can talk more about it. I'll tell you all the questions and some
Well,
funny stories.
Mhm.
you only need to ask me once.
I love it. Okay, I can't wait.
Done.
It's a
Yes.
date.
Sign the contract.
But Mo and I did a retreat a few years ago at the farm. Really was probably your first retreat at the farm, right,
The
Mo?
very
I
first
was
one.
there.
And
I was
Delta was
there.
there, right? And Mo had gotten whatever. You had told me to buy these vibrators.
Oh, you know what? I
Remember?
had gotten them. I had gotten
You
them
had gotten
delivered
them,
to
right,
my
and then
house.
but
And I didn't know why. And I said, well, God, I guess you're trying to tell me something. Because there were like 3 cases of vibrators that got delivered
So
to my
I made
house.
these, we made these awesome goodie bags of like all the stuff, right?
Mhm,
And
yeah.
so we gave everybody the goodie bags, and like for the next 2 hours, the living room was empty. Everybody was gone. We're like, we're gonna cook dinner now.
Right,
That's
right.
so
And the thing
Everybody
is,
was
you know,
gone.
it was a VFit, which is like a $400 vibrator. And it was
Yes.
all the rage on the website. The woman said, if my house was on fire, I'd save my VFit perk. I was like, man, this has got to be good. Right?
What is it called? Wait, what? I'm writing it. What is it called?
Oh, VFit, VFIT, and it's like a sonic vaginal warmer. I guess we shouldn't. I don't know if we can say vibrators on Black Doctor. We just said it again. That's like 6 times already. But you know,
It's all in the name of quality of life, so I think it's
Yeah.
okay.
there you
Right.
go, a sonic vaginal warmer, right? And so it increases blood flow. And when we do our podcast, we're going to talk about the mechanics of why, what works and why, and what doesn't and why, and what we really try to do with some of the agents that we use and some of the things we recommend, right? Because there's a science behind why the dryness is happening, right? There's a science behind what we can do about it and what we can't do about it. And there's some sham stuff out there too that isn't working for everybody, but it's really
Yeah.
expensive. And so we want to make sure, you know, that people know their options, but you know, a lot of these laser treatments don't last long. They can be uncomfortable, etc. And so I think we're getting better at it, but knowing what's the right thing for you to try based on your symptoms and your conversation with your doctor is a good conversation to have, so that you have some guardrails and a little bit of direction, because we're even changing how we approach things like vaginal estrogen, right? Which for everybody was taboo. It was no, 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 no. And now we're like, well, maybe, and yes, and you know, who's it right for?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for
Right.
weighing in. This is really great. And you know, it's funny because you mentioned like being at I think LVBC panel. I was at one a few years ago, and this is what started the whole thought process in my head. There was a woman it was a sex and breast cancer panel. There's a woman next to me. I'll never forget. She was like she had Kleenex, she was wiping her tears, and I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, I'm never gonna have sex with my husband again. I can't, it hurts too much. And I thought to myself, there's gotta be ways to fix the situation. And look, like this could be a whole other conversation in another podcast episode, but there's different varying degrees. Like some of us are okay with a really great high grade lubricant, and then many of us, there are some of us that need dilators and really to see doctors and to do special treatments and everything in
Yeah.
between.
Right, right. And then sometimes it's talk therapy, right? It's cognitive behavioral. And then sometimes it's just not you, right? Like that,
Right.
we don't talk enough about that either, that sometimes it's not
Right.
your fault. And I had a patient who, you know, she came in and I asked her how everything was going, and we go through the mammogram and all the stuff, how you doing on an estrogen blocker? And I said, all right, are you getting laid? And she burst into tears. And I said, okay, oh gosh, all right, you know, we're hugging it out. And I said, well, what's going on? She said, my husband doesn't find me attractive anymore. He doesn't love me. He can't perform. And I said, okay, well, let's unpack this a little bit. I said, you know, how long you been having this? Was this always since the surgery, since, you know, radiation? And she said, no, it seems like maybe the last, you know, month or two. And I said, okay, well, has something changed? You know, your scar tissue, or, you know, you get to gain weight a lot, like what's going on? And she says, I don't know. And I said, well, is he on any new medications? And she said, now that you mention it, he actually is. He started new medicine for his blood pressure.
Where's
And
blood
I
pressure?
said, oh, I said, does it end in Olol, like labetalol, atenolol, propanolol? And she said, oh my gosh, yes, it does. I said, well, I said, you can't tell your husband you were talking to your surgeon about, you know, his erectile dysfunction, but you can tell him you overheard 2 women in the waiting room talking about their husband and how one of them took a beta blocker and ended up having some challenges down there and had to talk to his cardiologist about switching his meds.
Wow.
You can tell him that. And I said, and come back and see me and let me know what happens. I'll see you in 6 months and I'm rooting for you and come see me sooner. 6 months later, she barely made it in the door. I opened the door and she jumped off the table and gave me a hug. She said, "You saved my marriage." And I said, "What did I do?" She said, "It was the blood pressure pill."
Wow. It had
Wow,
nothing to do with
wow.
her.
Wow. And see, but our
Maybe we have
instinct is to
take
blame it
things
on
on.
ourselves.
Yes.
Our instinct is to automatically take responsibility for it and say, "I'm the bad guy."
Yep.
It's like almost a female reflex or something,
mhm.
right? That we did something wrong. But
Yeah.
that's why so many black men won't take those drugs and they die. They get have a heart attack because they don't want to take those stupid drugs.
Yeah. And the surgeries don't help it as much. Like I thought it would, doing nipple sparing mastectomies and other things, because I have patients who the scars are this small, they're under the breast, they got the skin, the nipples, and some of them have some sensation still. And
Yeah.
and many of them are still having sex with the lights off with their undershirt on, and so there are things that we should talk about, that we should never just assume that our good surgery or our good cosmetic outcome or whatever we're doing technologically is making things better. We always have to be striving for more and striving for better in this, and I hope that we see that continue, because it sort of ebbs and flows. The interest in sexual wellness. I love to see it. Like People Magazine's a big freaking deal, man. I love it.
I know, right? Aren't you proud of these lovelies? I know. I hadn't seen that until I started looking at, gotten ready for this. I'm like, you didn't tell me that.
A big deal.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I know it was pretty wild flipping through the pages of all these celebrities, and there's me and Deltra.
I know, right?
I love
Listen,
it.
I know
It's a lot too.
I had my kids at Barnes and Noble and they see me in it with like celebrities that they know. And then my mom freaked out last week when I was at treatment and there's just a bunch of People Health magazines in the waiting room. And my mama took like too many. I was like, okay, stop. And she showed like everyone in the infusion room, like, Deltra's in here. No, I'm like,
And then don't talk about the Washington Post. Don't forget about that.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to need my
Washington Post.
signed and autographed copy of People Magazine. Deltra, I know you have to leave, but I want to know, what are your closing thoughts for people? Like, what do you want them to take away from this conversation?
Oh man, if nothing else, I do. And it kind of comes back to that, what we were just talking about, how easily we blame ourselves and think, what's wrong with me that is making him not interested, but just remembering your worth and how dateable you are, and that all the things that made you are, like the really deep core things are unchanged and still there.
Values.
And the things that make you, a desirable partner are still there. And so you have to get out there when you choose to get out there with lots of confidence. I love that episode number 1 focused on that first, on establishing. So like Melissa said, listen to it until you believe it and then move on to the next episodes. I almost want to say, then you're ready to step into like the dating and all of that episodes, but
it's first
I do
base.
love that episode today.
Episode 1 is first base.
That's right. I love it.
But I do love that today's episode is just all about dateability and really putting the power to yourself, because one thing I loved hearing, a quote that I loved when I started dating, was going to dates thinking about how much do I like that person, instead of thinking, oh well, how much does this person like me, or I hope they like me. Think about, I hope I like them,
Right.
Because with that mindset, you're not so set on like needing to be accepted and then being really hurt if you're rejected. And so, listen to the podcast in today's episode. And also, I will give a shout out to my article on this same topic that was in the latest episode of Wildflower. So
I'm gonna find that in the comments too. Okay. I'm gonna
Wildfire BC.
Awesome.
Their NBC, their latest, their NBC issue that just came out last month.
I'm gonna find it.
Awesome.
Yeah, you did a beautiful job, Deltra. You're an incredible poet and writer. Really.
Thank you. Thanks. But especially for my NBC sisters, I definitely want them to know, and what Ricky had just brought with that gorgeous story, about her friend's 2-year precious relationship. That's what my article is all about. I think it's called Your For Now is as Good as Forever. And
is it in the advocacy and print issue, NBC advocacy? Okay, I got the link. Okay, I got the link right here. Okay.
Yep.
I'll put the
Yep.
link in the comments.
That's what I will leave everyone with.
I love it. And
Love
I
you, love you
so
so
appreciate
much.
conversation. I mean, I gotta go too, because I gotta go. I want to be the first person my patient sees, opens their eyes and pat you. So
Oh,
I gotta
You
peace
are
out.
amazing, Mo.
you're amazing.
You're
No,
amazing.
no,
We know
you
it.
are. You are, and we all are. And this work that we're doing is amazing. And I hope it's changing lives. I hope people are commenting. I can't see the
Yeah.
Facebook. So I hope you're putting questions in the chat. I hope you subscribe to the podcast. I hope that you flood us with all the questions that you want answers to, so that these two amazing glamazons and just mavens can answer these questions and even the unanswerable ones, right? Like, we want to go to the very ends of the knowledge with this. So I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you all and be talking about this stuff, and be a resource where I can, and a listening sounding board. And we know as surgeons your docs don't always talk about it. There's a zillion other things to talk about, but if you bring it up, you should find someone in your care team, whether it's your navigator,
Yeah.
whether your social worker, whether it's your surgeon or your oncologist. Somebody should be able to sit down and talk about these things with you. And there are special clinics called survivorship clinics, where this really gets to have its moment and have its day. Because in survivorship clinic is where we really focus on thriving, and not just living with either your disease or live with the sequelae of your treatment, your scars, your pain, all the things that happen afterwards. But like, how do we get back to living every single day and making it the most? So find a survivorship clinic near you, and survivorship support groups like Touch, right? Like our Touch Talk on Sundays, and
Yeah.
and so much more. So I just love you all, and I appreciate it.
We love you
Thanks,
more,
Mo.
Dr.
Yeah.
Mo.
Love you,
and
Mo.
thanks
Go
for
take care of
working
your
us in. You're
patient.
obviously, you're just amazing for working us in. You have so much going on. So just thanks for being here tonight.
Hey, listen, the doctor's always in for y'all. I love y'all. See you later.
Love you, Mo. I'll talk to you soon, my
Yeah.
lovey. Talk to you soon. Love you, Mo.
And I'm gonna
Um,
head off too, guys.
All
But
right.
thanks
Love you,
for
Deltra. Stay
having
with me,
me.
Melissa, for a few more
Yes,
minutes.
I'm not going anywhere. Deltra, thank you so much.
Thank you
Of
so
course.
much, my lovey. Thank you so much.
Aw.
My
Thank you so
partner in
much.
crime.
This was a great time. I love chatting with you guys anytime.
I
So
know. Will I see you in San Antonio?
I'm not sure if I'll be in San Antonio, but you know where you will see me soon? New Orleans.
Oh, I'll
I'm
see you in
so
New Orleans. Come with
jealous.
the
You guys are
party.
gonna have so much fun.
Yeah, come with the party. All right, I'll see you in New Orleans in a couple weeks. I love you. so
Love you guys.
Yeah.
Have a
Love
good
you,
night.
Deltra. Bye.
Bye. Bye. So yeah, Melissa, this is a great thing that you're doing.
Thanks for,
The
giving
great
us
thing
the
that you're
opportunity
doing.
to share
And
with your beautiful
you know,
community.
the world is a better place because of you. And
Oh, no. Well, you
this-
too. And I just think, if I'm going to leave everyone with one thing, it's, don't assume anything. And also the physical healing and acceptance, it really is a process, and give yourself grace and time to go through it, and don't rush it. And
right.
just try and find the
Just,
joy.
I know, just try to like live your life and find peace with yourself. You always say your peace is non-negotiable.
That's
And
right.
sex is a part of your peace,
Were there any questions from anyone that you'd like
I
me
know
to?
I'm looking for questions. Everyone's just like giving kudos,
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But a lot of times the questions come, we'll watch for them.
We'll watch for them.
Yeah, someone's asking who we are. We're Touch the Black Breast Cancer Alliance, here with our friends from Cancer Fashionista.
Yeah, Deltra's awesome. I mean, I could talk to her forever. And what's really cool is we really, truly have such a beautiful friendship, and we've bonded in so many ways, especially, having gone through divorce and breast cancer. And, we both have different paths and different stories, but a lot of crossover. And, there were so many conversations that I would have with her and other friends in the community behind closed doors about these really sensitive topics. And I thought, why not bring it out? They don't have to be behind closed doors, because it's going to help. I feel like these conversations, I know I would have loved to have listened in on some of these, because you just feel alone and you feel like, what's wrong with me? And I don't want anyone to ever feel that way.
Yeah. And after breast cancer, I have no filter. I'll talk about anything.
Oh, same. I know.
We have no filter. Bring it. What are you gonna do? But But yeah, no, it's something that so many women deal with without cancer, you know, and I'm sure there's some programming on Black Doctor just about sex and intimacy in general. But I mean, you know, adding cancer to that whole conversation is just, you know, a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot, especially when you start talking about young women or, you know, where we heard a lot, young women, but also older married couples.
I was
There's
going to say you have both sides of the spectrum. Like you
have
get our
both sides.
young
Yeah.
women that have to face, you know, fertility
Right,
decisions
the
rather
fertility thing,
quickly.
yeah.
And then on the other side, we have, you know, those of us that have
Postmenopausal women,
surgical
yeah.
menopause or, you
right,
know,
right.
yeah, add menopause and breast cancer. And it's this perfect storm of like, you know, how do I feel sexy again? How am I going to feel beautiful again? And it's complicated, but
Yeah,
not as
funny, you have
possible.
some people, breast cancer starts their menopause because you have to take tamoxifen or whatever. Breast cancer killed my menopause. The chemo made the hot flashes go away.
Oh, really?
For me, oh yeah, I was kind of probably.
Oh, I
in the
never knew
youngest.
that.
And yeah, I stopped getting hot flashes and stopped getting stuff when I had the chemo killed it, I guess.
Wow. Well, I had my ovaries removed prophylactically before because I have the
Yeah.
when I was 39 and I got hot flashes like crazy for a while and then all of a sudden everything just calmed down, but it's wild.
So when did you get your ovaries taken out? How old were you?
I was 32 when I was tested positive for the BRCA gene, and my oncologist said, by the time you're 40, I would like you to have your ovaries removed. So I thought, well, I don't want that to be my 40th birthday present. So I did it when I was 39. I mean, I was blessed. Like I already had my children.
Yeah,
But it's a really,
I know. And then when did you get cancer, Melissa?
when I was 42.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you know, Amanda just had her mastectomy, prophylactic.
That's
You know,
right. How is she doing?
February. She's doing great. She's doing great. For a minute,
And she had reconstruction?
She had reconstruction. And for a minute, she wanted bigger boobs, but she's very happy now. But she had her nipples spared. She got resensation. She has no scars. They're all underneath. And
Incredible.
and she won't get breast cancer. And
Good
she
job.
now, you know, basically laid the platform for Haley. So when Haley has babies, she can do the same thing and protect themselves, you know.
That's
And
beautiful. It's
and your
incredible.
girls can too. Like, you know, thank God for the fact that we went through what we went through, so we can hopefully save them, you know, like your mom saved.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
but this is a hot topic. So glad you're here. So Melissa, I gotta tell our audience about something. So if you are in active treatment right now or know anyone in active treatment, or if you're within 18 months of treatment, we still have our Breast Cancer Awareness Month program going on. We're partnering with Unite for Her, and they give away incredible integrative medicine services, integrative care services like Reiki, yoga. They have cooking shows. They give away food. They give away a passport worth of $2,000 worth of stuff. And then we give 6 months of navigation, of nurse navigation with our navigation team, Val and her team. And for 6 months, you can have 24/7, yes, 24/7, yes, 2 o'clock in the morning, yes, 10 o'clock at night, like whatever time you need. Nurse navigator, pick up the phone, call her. She's there for you. And our whole navigation team is Black women who are blessties. They all have lived experience with breast cancer, and they're all nurses. And they're there for you all the time. So if you're in active treatment, I put the link in the comments. I'll put it again, but just go sign up today, tell people about it. And we have a few slots left, and we're trying to take care of women. And we know that, you know, navigation really helps a lot, and Val will talk you off the ledge and give you what you need. So thank you for coming, my lovey.
Thank you for having me and
Um,
Deltra, and I'm glad Dr. Mo was able to pop in between surgery.
Yeah.
You
And
guys
watch
are
the
amazing.
podcast. The links are all in the comments. Watch the podcast. I was like, I couldn't turn it off today.
Thank you.
All the phones rang today, so I could hear it.
Yep,
And
you can check it out on you could definitely YouTube, where I know you shared the link, is the best
Yeah.
place to watch and listen.
yeah,
And then if you're in your car and you just want to listen, it's also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts on Dear Cancer I'm Beautiful.
yeah. And listen to all the Dear Cancer I'm Beautiful podcasts. They're all Really, really great. It's really, really
Thank you,
great.
Ricky. And you're in a
content.
couple of those too.
I've
I
been
love
in a
that
couple,
one.
listen to them. They really will like, if you're on a car ride, it's a great channel to tune into. So I love you,
Thank
Melissa.
I love you more, Ricky. Thanks for having me
Yeah.
on.
If Mo were still here, she would say, I hope this was relatable, reliable, and real. That's what we set out to do every week on blackdoctor.org. We thank you to our sponsors. We thank you to the platform. We're very grateful to talk to you guys, and we will see you next week as we take care. Bless you, love.
Bless you, love.
Bye.
Bye.